Okay, so biaxial bending is very important for axial and flexural members like columns. And all columns are to be designed with these load combinations. Okay, so the problem with the building columns is that the load combinations are too many that normally a column will behave differently with each load combination induced on it. Okay, so this is a typical figure you can see on my board of a rectangular column subjected to compression and biaxial bending. So if you apply a load equivalent to PU with an eccentricity on both axes, your column will behave biaxially in terms of bending and of course in terms of axial compression. Okay, so very typical column is shown, and if we are going to look into the situation wherein the strain and stress compatibility relationship. Okay, so we have to start with the strain diagram here, and then the stress diagram here. Okay, so we can actually come up with this kind of uh, diagrams. Okay, so all you have to do is to solve the capacity in terms of the equilibrium conditions. Basically, summation of forces along the neutral axis will give you your axial load, and summation moment at the plastic centroid will give you the bending. Okay, so this part here will actually be uh, defined in terms of your plastic centroid here. Okay, take note that the plastic centroid and the neutral axis are not the same in terms of location. Okay, so it can be at different location. Okay, the plastic centroid can actually be here, while the neutral axis is located here. Okay, so these two are not always the same in position and orientation. Okay, because they are two different point of centroidal reference. Okay, so PC is more on the strength. Okay, so this is the strength center, and the neutral axis is more on the stress. Okay, so the strength refers to the ultimate capacity, while the stress is the uh, actual force that is applied on a particular location, component of your member. It may it be the reinforcement or the concrete. Okay, so they are always not the same, or they are different in terms of location in general. So take note of that. So I hope you know how to deal with such kind of a situation, because this is just a basic column analysis we do in our college. Okay, so let's proceed with the method of analysis. So the method of analysis is actually simply the use of the basic principles of equilibrium with the following assumptions. Normally, these are the assumptions that we always uh, follow or satisfy for reinforced concrete members. Okay, so compatibility, tension is 0, steel is elastoplastic, concrete, sigma epsilon is known, and of course the ultimate strength or strain of your concrete is assumed to be 0.003. So for the given initial position and orientation, so meaning to say always this is a given value, or this may be assumed. Okay, again, the reason for that is because you have a lot of possibilities when it comes to column behavior. So we simply apply the three equilibrium equation. Summation of forces along the this is along the neutral axis equals 0. Okay, so the summation moment along the x or sorry, about the x-axis. Okay, so this is about the x because you have an EY there. So this is moment about, and this is the moment about y. Okay, so you can actually change the sense of moment, but this is how excuse me, Salmon and Johnson presented it in the book. Okay, so I just followed the referencing of the Salmon and Johnson manuscript, or Salmon and Johnson reference. So take note that obtaining the position of an inclined neutral axis, we simply use the principles of equilibrium, and this is actually a very tedious trial and error process. So if you do it manually, it's actually hell. But if you do it using computers, it's very normal. So this is simply a computer iteration. Okay. So the difficulties of obtaining the actual position lies from this reasons, or this consideration, no? That the concrete compression block is generally non-rectangular. So you have actually 5 minimum possibilities of the creation of your stress block, your compression block. It can be triangular, trapezoidal. It can be a polygon of 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Okay, or 5 sides, I mean. Okay, so it can also be a simple rectangle when your neutral axis falls beyond the boundaries of your section. So you may never know which of these will be the actual situation unless you fix the loading requirement in terms of the PU, the MUX, and the MUY values. So this makes your closed form solution impossible. That's why we do a computer iteration. Okay, so for the steel stresses, we take note that the steel stress can be neither equal to or simply less than Fy. In case it exceeds Fy, then your maximum value will stick to Fy only. So for values of negative signs, we actually have a tension still, and for values of Fs which is positive, we have compression still. So you don't have to worry about the character of stress that the steel is actually carrying, because here in the summation series, here your Fs, the forces here will automatically be negative when it goes on the other side of the compression. Okay, so all of these are in tension and all of these are in compression. So automatically, if you take a summation forces horizontal, the sign of the force will be carried by the determination of your stress or strain in concrete. Okay, so this is the formula for the strain. Epsilon CUC minus DI over C. Or you can solve for FSI directly here by simply multiplying a 0.003 with 200. That becomes a 600 C minus DI over C here. Okay. So when it becomes positive, it's compression, then negative in tension. So if you do programming, this is very important. So take note that DI is the distance from the extreme compression fiber to the steel area I along an axis perpendicular to NA. So note that in general, your neutral axis is not perpendicular to the what is this? This is the resultant eccentricity E, which is defined here in the figure in terms of this line. Okay, so this is your E, which is simply the resultant of EY and EX, and what the principle tells us is that this is not always 90 degrees, or yes. Okay, so some may approximate it, but that's not the accurate solution. So this is not equal to 90 degrees. Okay, for any position and orientation of NA, you may define a set of forces, PNX, PN, MNX, and MNY, which defines the strength. And there's an infinite set of such forces, and we come up with what you call an interaction surface. Okay, so this is what you call in an interaction. Instead of an interaction diagram, you now have an interaction surface. So the general rule is that all points lying inside or on the surface of this figure is exhibiting a safe design, while those which goes outside the surface will give you a failure. Okay, a failure mechanism in terms of your design. Okay, let's try to study the concept of Bressler on the failure surface. So the nominal strength of a section under biaxial and compression is a function of three main variables, which is simply your P, Mn, X, and Mny. So you're just like plotting an XYZ here. Okay, so this is normally a Z value. Okay, so these are the Z value, and this is the XY values. Okay, so you're just plotting a surface in terms of three variables. So we have three variables. Okay, so Bressler defined the failure surface differently. So what is the normal failure surface is given here. Okay, you call this now the surface of such an interaction diagram is the normal or the common failure surface that we are actually referring to. Okay, so while your vertical axis is the Z axis, which is the PN. Okay, your X axis here is normally the mn y, and your z-axis here is your mn x. Okay, so something like this will be your equivalence, your analogy on the xyz coordinates and the pn mnx mny coordinate. So take note that here your definition for mnx is about, okay, about the y-axis. That's why pn is simply your mnx is simply pn multiplied by ey. So this is the moment about the x-axis, the moment about the y-axis. And therefore, your ey and ex are obtained from this moment equation. So there are three types of failure surface given in figures 13.21.2, 0.3, and 0.4. Okay, and the first one is of course the Bressler method, which is known as the reciprocal method. So Bressler did not use the normal failure surface, rather Bressler used the reciprocal surface, and he developed a simple tool for investigation of a design which is already made. And this is an approximate method. If you have a computer, much better if you can just make a program of your own to deal with the actual failure surface that we are discussing here. So from the figure, I will show you the figure later, the plane passing through the points A, B, and C are defined. Okay, so it's just like defining coordinates x, y, and z in terms of the reciprocal values, because instead of having a force, so we have the reciprocal of the force here. Okay, so might as well give you the figure now so you can understand it better. So that is 21.5 is here. Okay, so this is the failure. Okay, so this is what the Bressler reciprocal surface looks like. Okay, so instead of having a Pn axis, Bressler made a 1 over Pn axis here. So the purpose of which is to make the error much more tolerable, because of putting the concavity in the reverse direction. Okay, so probably you cannot imagine it now, but later on when you try to look into the details of the derivation, you will see it. Okay, so this is 1 over Pn. So all points here on the surface is defined by 1 over Pn axis, Ex axis, and Ey axis. Okay, this is the actual reciprocal surface. But later on you will find out that Bressler did not make use of the surface because it's very difficult to make a derivation, a formula out of it. So he tried to assume a flat surface, which is the surface S prime 2 instead of S2. Okay, that makes it an approximate method, and it also makes the method very erroneous when your Pn is small. Okay, when Pn is small, very small, your error will fall on this. Okay, on this big. Okay, so this is your error, And this is a very big error. When Pn is small, your 1 over Pn will shoot upwards here, will shoot, will go on this vicinity, such that the error becomes big. Okay. So what is the limitation of such equation is to use a Pn which is not so small or big. When Pn is big, then your 1 over Pn will only have a very small error here. Okay. So meaning to say that this Bresler equation is only good for shall I say gravity loadings for columns. I'm talking of columns, no? So when you have earthquake or lateral forces which reduces the value of your Pn, okay? So gravity loadings are reduced when earthquake and wind pushes the structure. So your Bresler method becomes erroneous because your failure surface S prime 2 will not be very near to the actual surface S2. Okay, so be sure when you use methods class principles, you know their limitation, or else you can be misinterpreting your analysis. Okay, so I don't like to put or to discuss very detailed the derivation, but the derivation simply is a simple method of substituting the values of point A, B, and C here. Okay, we simply substitute the value of your S2 surface at critical locations A, B, C, and this critical location touches your assumed Bresler surface, which is S prime 2. Okay, so POPX and PY are simply the counterpart of your PNX and PNY. So what Bresler did is separated the X, okay, the X coordinate with the Y coordinate in terms of the P values, and came up with these points A, points B, and point C. Okay, so we know for a fact that the equation of the plane is simply A1x, A2y, A3z plus A4 equals 0. Okay, so it's just like an an AX plus BY plus CZ equals a constant D. Okay, so the constant D there can actually be divided all throughout this, such that this can be simply equal to a unity here. And the reason why this is put in the value of 0, because you are placing your coordinate exactly where you want your equation to be simpler enough for formula derivation consideration. It's just like putting your intercept on the origin. Okay, so it doesn't matter where what's the value of your D here. Okay, so we just plug in all the coordinates x, y, z in terms of Pn, EXA and EYB. Okay, so and solve for A1, A2, and A3, A4, which are the unknowns. Okay, so we have 4 equation, 4 unknowns. You deal this. You can deal with it very quite easily using algebra. Okay, so we just solve simultaneous equations and then solve for A1, A2, and A3. And of course A4, the constant D there, is also solved. And substituting it back to the original equation, we can solve for, we can derive rather your interaction equation on the basis of the critical points given by Bressler. Okay, approximately your x becomes your exa, y, eyb, z, just like what I told you a while ago about the analogy between a simple xyz coordinate and a different coordinate in terms of exa, eyb, and 1 over pi. Okay? So take note that your z is approximate. Sorry, your pi, your p is approximate. Therefore, your pn here will not be the actual force because sometimes there will be an error. But again, as I told you, the error is very small when your pn is very small, and sorry, it's the other way around. The error is very small when your Pn is quite big, and your error becomes big when Pn is small, such that the approximation will yield to there's a change in a variable from Pn to Pi, which makes your Bressler equation looks like this. Okay, so 1 over Pi is equal to 1 over Px plus 1 over Py minus 1 over Po. Okay, so your Pn here, this is 1 over Pi, is here, which is approximately equal to this. And your Po here is simply the, what? The pure axial capacity. Okay, the pure axial capacity is defined Po or PNO on the basis of your column type. If it is a tied column or if it is a spiral, you just multiply it by the efficiency factor. Okay, so this formula is simply the formula F prime CAG of 0.85 plus summation of your ASI Fy minus 0.85 F prime C. Okay, so this is just your PNO. Of course, if it is a tied column, you can multiply it by the efficiency factor. And if it is a spiral column, you can simply multiply it. The reduction factor, you don't have to multiply it yet because you can reduce the interaction surface later in terms of its full capacities. Okay, so another derivation is by determinants, but I will not discuss to you. Simply an exercise. So you can solve simultaneous equation using determinants, and here it uses a Laplace solution or expansion of determinant. So this is a 4 by 4 determinant. You can reduce it to a 3 by 3 because 3 by 3 can actually be dealt with by simply doing the diagonal multiplication, and eventually you will come up with the same formula here as that derived above. Okay, so this is what is very important from test results and from exact analysis. Sometimes this is very difficult to understand when you did not do the test, and it's very expensive to do a column test, so you just rely more on the exact analysis. The exact analysis is the analysis I presented a while ago, wherein you will be having to you need to find your neutral axis location in terms of computer iteration. Okay, Okay, look at the maximum deviation. It's a 9.4% error and 3.3% on the average. And here, test results shows you a uh, a similar, no, it's not different with the exact analysis. A range of 0.98 to 109 is just like having a range of 9% to almost 2% here, say 3.3%. So maximum deviation is 16%. Of course, test results are random. Okay, these are random data because it depends on a lot of influencing factor on the actual nature of your test specimen and the conduct of your methodology. So while the exact analysis is more of a deterministic analysis, it has the formula, the science, the principles which are more or less fixed and not randomized. But they have quite a uh, a, a similar deviation in terms of the maximum. Okay, so this is 9 to, on the average it's a little bit high, you know, when it comes to the deviation. This is 16%, this is 3.3%. They are actually too different. That's why if you are going to make use of factor of safety on the basis of this, you have to consider which will give you the more conservative. Okay, so take note that this equation is most suitable only when px is great, okay, which means that big. For bigger values of pn, uh, your accuracy becomes better. So for PB values, this has some effect on the shape of the diagram. So it's difficult to really connect, no, the accuracy in terms of the PB value here. So how great, how big, how small will depend on your experience on the on the shape of the diagram itself. So I want you to really observe when you are designing columns to always plot the diagrams and make some generalization of what are the pros and cons of using Bressler. Anyway, there are a lot of programs that uses the exact analysis already, so the Bressler method is quite old now. A lot of research has come, and but still Bressler is a very dependable method to deal with, because it's the one that is used by uh, experienced engineers as well, no? So yung mga may experience na use only an approximate solution using Bressler approach. So when Pn is greater than 0.1 F prime CAG, you can use the above procedure. So this answers your question: how small and how large will Bressler be accurate? So this is one of the suggestion of the author at least you have a 10% of the ultimate strength of your concrete. But again, a lot of questions will come into your mind. If you are already an experienced designer, how true will be this reference? So results may not be good when the ratio PN over PO is in the range of 6% or less. So the PN and PO are taken into consideration. The problem is you don't know what PN is. Okay, the actual load capacity is not yet defined. So you have to compute it and then divide it by PO and make this reference as your basis for the use of Bressler method. Okay, so this is a low actual load suggested by panel, so it is best to design the member for flexure only. So for low actual load, again, what happens with your 1 over pi there? So this becomes very big, and your error will be very big. Okay, so panel suggests that instead of using a reciprocal method, you use a beam method, okay, a flexural only method. So we're referring here to a beam analysis. So when Pn is less than this here, a value of 10% of the strength, the section may be designed for pure biaxial bending. Again, your Pn over Po check here will actually be used, no? But first we have to compute for the real value of your Pn. So it's quite a tedious process to check on this, but just for the purpose of trying to get some conclusions, you may do so. Okay, so the second method is again proposed by Bressler, but this time instead of having a reciprocal surface, the failure surface is defined by a contour. So this is called the load contour method by Bressler, and the concept is all about assuming a level of load of Pn. So if you have here an interaction surface like this, so you just okay, you just cut your failure line somewhere here. Okay. And if you look at the top view here, you will see a contour like this. Okay, so this part here will be shaped like a contour. That's why it's called a contour. The load carrying capacity is fixed to a level. Okay, so this Pn is fixed, is defined on the basis of the actual load Pu. Okay, so we know that Pu is Ppn. So we make use of a relationship of what Pn is in terms of Pu, and then describe the equation of this. Okay, so the equation now is not a three-dimensional equation, it's only a two-dimensional equation on the mnx and mny axis. Okay, so the PN axis was actually removed by setting a level which is constant, fixed. So if you will notice, this equation will be ranging from a straight line to a curve line. Okay, so it is if you look into a double axis like this, your equation will actually be ranging from lines that can be straight like this to a line uh, that can be okay, so something like this. So this carries the exponent alpha 1 and alpha 2 in this description of such line. So it is MNX and MOX. So what is MNX? This is the actual capacity at the x direction versus the pure. When you say an O there, when you see an O there, this is the pure bending case. Okay. When you see an N there, this is the nominal capacity at the x direction. It's the pure bending case at the x direction. This is the nominal capacity at the y direction. This is the pure bending case at the y direction. And this is equivalent to 1. So if we set alpha 1 and alpha 2 to be 1, this is simply a straight line. So it's just like a straight line method of x over a plus y over b equals 1. So something like this. So this is just a straight line. If your alpha 1 is equal to alpha 2 but it's 2, it becomes an ellipse. Okay? If MOX and MOY are the same, it becomes a circle. So something like that. Now, so your contour curve may represent simple geometries by simplifying the exponent and the values of your MOX and MOY. So the values of alpha 1 and alpha 2 of course will depend on what shape and dimension you like in terms of your cross section, the reinforcement, placement and quantity, the material strength, and the load level. This is the PN level that I'm talking about earlier. So the values of alpha 1 and alpha 2 are usually determined from test results, and of course some suggestions were made by Bressler. So Bressler suggested that it is acceptable to take alpha 1, alpha 2 to be the same. Okay? To be the same, meaning to say it will range from a straight line to a circle, and then it can exceed 2 and make it a bilinear plot. Okay, so if you look into that, the curve may look like a straight line like this, a circle like this, or a bilinear plot like this. Okay, so of course there are some curves defined at the middle. I'd like to remove the okay, so let's have, so there's a line Okay, here, like this. So this is alpha equals 1, and then this is the circle, alpha equals 2, and this is alpha greater than 2, okay? So this alpha here is in between 1 less than alpha less than 2. Okay, so if you're doing a technique on how to deal with the contour method, you can deal with some variations on the value of alpha. Again, I told you, at a certain point in time, structural engineering will be an art. It will be an art for you. So you will enjoy it more after you finish all the necessary concepts and principles you need to learn, no? Uh, at the end of the day, you will be looking into all of these principles as one form of an art that you can use in decision making. Hindi habang panahon magko-compute ka na, magsasawa ka ng kaka-compute, kaya kailangan ngayon pa lang aralin mo lahat yung mga i-observe mo lahat yung mga nangyayari sa pagdi-design at sa pag-a-analyze mo para ma-enjoy mo siya, no? Ma-enjoy mo yung kahit na may computer, nakakasakit ng ulong mag-design using computer. So might as well learn what you are doing rather than use the computer to give you the results and then bahala na. So it doesn't work that way, no? If you want to really enjoy uh, your job as a structural engineer. Okay, so the formula now is fixed on this, where alpha is the values ranging from 1.15 to 1.55. Okay, so hindi siya umabot sa circle, ano? So Bressler tells us, hey, don't make your alpha reach 2. Okay, so dito ka lang. Medyo flat siya ng konti. Yung curve mo, hindi siya bilog ganyan, ano? So medyo flat ng konti. Ayan, naka-flat siyang. O kaya, ayan, ganyan siya. Pero hindi din straight line, no? So what Bressler suggests is it's a little curved than a straight line, but it's not as curved as a circle. So with smaller values being applicable only for smaller values of Pn. So pag medyo small yung Pn mo, punta ka dito. Pag medyo malaki, punta ka doon. So for practical purposes, so this is the suggestion of alpha 1.5 for rectangular section. Okay? So dito na 1.75 for square and circular. Again, I don't exceed. I don't use greater than 1.55. Ang galang ako dito. So, but there's a suggestion here to use 175 for square. But for circular section, this is acceptable. Why? Because a circular section will give you a contour that is almost a circle because of the compatibility in shape and distribution of your reinforcement. Of course, if you have a spiral column, I'm referring here to a spiral column, not just a circular section. But if you only have a circular column which is not spiral, I suggest you stick with the range of Bressler here. This range here is for practicality defined on the book, which is not consistent with Bressler in terms of this square and circular section there. Okay, so of course, if you want to study more on a lot of research were made here, you can extend your understanding on what particular alpha to use, no? in your design. So use of alpha equals 1 is always conservative but very expensive. So masyado namang conservative yung 1. Pero pwede na rin kung gusto mong safe na safe. Okay, so aside from Bresler, the Portland Cement Association, which is initiated by Parme, uses a different approach, okay, in terms of alpha. Okay, so the PCA method is simply an extension of the Bresler load contour. Alpha 1 is equal to alpha 2 only, but it is defining a certain point B on the interaction curve such that the nominal biaxial strength MBX and MBY are in the same ratio as the uniaxial moment strength. Okay, so in short class, the PCA method of Parme gives us a design approach. Okay, so in-extend niya yung study ni Bresler. Bresler approach is investigative, no? So yung kay Parme to, PCA or PCA, siguro ang nag-fund nung research Portland Cement, kaya PCA. While Bresler is an investigative approach. May bakal ka na doon, meron ka ng concrete, investigate mo na lang. So, itong Parme, in-extend lang niya. Same assumption with Bresler. But the different approach comes from a point wherein a definition of point B was inserted to give you a formula on determining the design moment based on the load contour. Okay? Kasi meron kang final moment na MU. Paano mo makukuha yung design moment mo, no? So, yun ang problema mo dyan. So, ito yung ginawa ni Parme. So, in a load contour, whatever is your alpha, but normally alpha 1 is equal to alpha 2, he defined a point B, okay, such that the ratio of your MBX, this ratio here, the ratio of this value with this value here, this one, okay, so the ratio of this with this is equal to the ratio of this with that. So, this is the search mo yan. Sa search mo yung point B. Saan nakatama yan para mag-equal ito? Yan, equal. And after getting that point B, which is defined or which is named as MBX and MBY, so the coordinates of these are MBX, MBY, yun yung point B mo, no? So you define that ratio to be beta. And we will relate beta to alpha so that alpha will no longer be a suggestion of Bresler, but rather to be a situation wherein you have what you call a constant ratio. Whatever is your MN, if this is your extension for your point MN, okay, whatever is your MN will come from your MU, and then MU will actually determine your MOX and your MBX and your MBY, and then this MBX and MBY will determine your design moments. So, mas ano siya sa design, di ba? Mas applicable siya sa design. the key to finding the point B will give you the key to finding beta and subsequently your alpha. So alpha is not a direct assumption. Now, the good thing about this is that alpha converges to the exact analysis. Okay, so if you want to I can't find I have a literature on the exact analysis. I can't find it right now, but I will share it to you as soon as I have it, for you to be able to understand uh, how this works. Okay? Para pag nag-design kayo ng column, mas confident kayo na tama yung design nyo at hindi over-design. Okay, the interaction expression at point B becomes now this by simply substituting the value of m and x, okay, here, and m and y. So mbx over mox alpha. So m and x was replaced by mbx, m and y was replaced by mby. And this ratio now, mbx over mnx, is actually the one defined by your dimensionless interaction diagram. Okay, by the way, it's called dimensionless because there's no unit here if you divide the two moments. Okay, so that's why it's called a dimensionless interaction diagram. Actually, to make it exact, this is a non-dimensional contour diagram, not interaction. Okay. So the interaction expression, or the contour expression at point B now will be simplified by substituting your mbx over mbox, mby over my by beta. Here, simply substitute, and of course cancel mox here and my there. You get simply the beta to alpha plus beta to alpha equals 1. So this is 2 beta alpha equals 1. Take the logarithm of both sides. First divide this, becomes 1/2. So take the log, then alpha is simply this one. So if you know beta, you can search for point B. Okay, and then find beta. You can define alpha exactly, no? So you will get an exact value of alpha, just like you did the iteration on the exact analysis. So thus the interaction equation may be written as this one. Okay, so your interaction equation will be written by substituting the value of alpha here. So this is now your Parme interaction or contour equation. Okay, so the only difference between the Bressler and this is that the extension of such method leads to an exact value of your alpha then. So for beta, the lower limit of 0.5, the equation defines a straight line like this, and for upper limit of 1, it defines a bilinear plot. Of course, this is ideal, but it is theoretically or analytically possible. So the values of beta depends primarily on Pn over Po and to a lesser extent on bar arrangement. So these are the things that you need to connect with such. The ratio of your Pn and Po. Again, what is your Pn? Pn is the nominal actual load capacity, while Po is the Bressler capacity, approximate capacity given by this load contour. Okay, so your reinforcing index omega, or rho Fy over Fc prime, Okay, so I do not use this index. I use the index M is Fy over 0.85 F prime C. Okay? So ito yung ginagamit kong index. But you can use any index you want for as long as there is Fy and F prime C there. So in other books, you will see a formula. We're using this index omega. In my lectures, you will see a formula using an index M. An index is just a reference value, and these are just the same because you are just dividing Fy and F prime C. The only difference is rho is a part of this index, and here I fix a value of 0.85. So the yield strength of the reinforcement is also a factor to consider. So the usual range of beta is in between 0.55 to 0.70 with an average of 0.65, and correspondingly this is equivalent to 1.16 to 1.94 with the average of 1.6. So the 1.55 of Bressler's suggestion is valid again. Okay? So okay lang yung 1.55 na alpha ni Bressler for okay, more accurate values of beta have been calculated by PCA using a rectangular stress block, and the basic principles are there are some deviation based on the different parameters gamma. Gamma is the reinforcement uh, location factor, okay, defined by the effective cover. So if you have here a column with a reinforcement like this, gamma is simply this x all over this y. Okay, so gamma is simply x over y. Okay. So when x is very small, then your gamma is very small. Then your column becomes inefficient. Actually, gamma in your code is limited to only about I think 0.70 to 0.65 something like this on the range. Okay, B over H is also a parameter to consider. The ratio of your smaller side to the bigger side, and F prime C also. So the maximum difference is about 5% for a given Pn over Po. So the charts of beta are lowest values developed. So there's a chart given by Salmon. If you want to look at the chart, you can use it, but if you can derive all the formula, you don't need a chart, and solve the value of beta automatically. Okay, so load control method as presented is also primarily an analysis tool rather than a design tool. Okay, so here for the design purpose, an extension of Bressler, we use now this equation to come up with the values at the moment we need for a design purpose. This is what I telling you, that the the PCA method, okay, so make use of the load contour method as a design method. So this is now the PCA approach of Parme. So the purpose, the method actually goes by simply again approximating to a certain level the curve, the contour curve that we need, no, for us to be able to come up with a moment value. Okay, so assuming that is a straight line ABBC, Okay, so if I have here a, uh, a contour like this, so I simply assume a straight line like this. Okay, so if I want to make a curve out of it, or a triple line like this, sorry, not a triple line, but a, a quadruple line like this. So you make your approximation closer and closer to your actual curve here. So this is just one approach presented by PCA, but you can extend it up to multiple points along the curve. Okay, so for AB, the formula. Okay, so this is AB, C. The formula becomes this one. So you just like you're just like doing a, this is dimensionless. This is the MNX over MOX, and this is MNY over MOY. Okay, so MNX over MOX, MNY. So if I get this equation here, this is my intercept. Okay, this is my intercept. So if I'm making use of a y equals mx plus b equation, so this m and y, I can distribute it here. 1 minus beta is my, what's this? Whatever is your slope, this is your, okay? So this is the slope, and this is the intercept. So you just plug in here, you get this equation here. Your y represents your, this is your y, sorry, this is your x rather, okay, and this is your intercept plus, sorry, this is your y, okay, so this is your y value, and the intercept is dimensionless. This is 1, okay? So the maximum value of this is 1.0. So this is your intercept. And your slope given by beta, okay? So the slope here is given by this 1 minus beta over beta. Beta is simply the ratio of MOX over MOY, remember? Sorry, MBX, the point B there over MB MOX, and MBY over MOY. Okay, so you just make use of this and substitute the value of beta to get the slope of this line. You're talking of the slope here. Now for BC, same scenario, you just make use of such situation in order to get this formula for BC. And the formula are very much, they look the same, of course, because they are just, shall I say, symmetrical on the diagonal axis, so they look the same. But their placement of y and x are reversed. Okay? Nandito kanina yung MOX, nandito yung MNY. So, bumaliktad lang. Or, you can simplify it further. And what to do now is you have a choice of whether to use the top line or the bottom line, depending on the value of your MNY over MNX. So the top line is applicable for MNY over MNX greater than MOY over MOX. Okay, so if it is less than, then you use the bottom line. Okay, so this is now your conditional statement in your program. O baka pa-program ko sa inyo ito, you simply use this as your conditional statement. So when your rectangular sections are used with the reinforcement, the uniformly distributed along all faces, the ratio of MOY over MOX can be approximated by this. This is a good thing about this extension is that if MOY is MOY is the moment about the y-axis here, and MOX is the moment about this here. So your representation of your B over H value will depend on the ratio of your MOY over MOX, such that your MOX is simply proportional to your BD squared and your MOY is proportional to your this is baligtad, B squared D, okay, or HB squared. Of course, H and D are related by simply deducting the effective cover. Okay, so if your H is big, D is big. So this will actually be true. Okay? So kung alam mo yung MOX mo, paano mo malalaman? Kasi makukompute mo kanina, no, doon sa formula natin. Ma-predict mo na sa design. So you go now to a design methodology wherein you will use a B over H ratio. Diba? So hindi mo na kailangang magkaroon ng dalawang unknown by simply having a B over H ratio, which is equivalent to an MOY over MOX ratio. Then you can what? Make use of a trial value for your B and solve for H. Okay? So, isa na lang yung unknown mo, no? Hindi na dalawa. So, you are reducing your assumption into a more realistic assumption on the basis of what MOY and MOX gives you. Okay? Okay, thus MOY is given by this, blah, 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 and MOX is given by this for MNY over MNX greater, and this for MNY over MNX less than. So, ito yung nasa taas kanina. No? Note that beta and B over H must still be assumed. It is assumed, but it can actually be related to this. So, it's still an assumption, but it is more of a realistic. Hindi yung assumption na walang basihan, no? So, mahirap kasi yun eh. Pag ganun, parang fantastic yung design mo kung minsan, di mo lang kung tumatama ka o hindi, no? Okay, so in summary, this is the design procedure, no? You estimate the value of beta at 0.65. Then, if MNY is larger than MNX, you compute the approximate equivalent uniaxial bending moment MOY using equation G1. Ayan, yung sa taas yan, no? Ayan. And then, if MNX is larger than MNY, compute MOX using G2. So, this is just the curve AB and the curve BC. The line AB, the line BC choices, no? So, design the section using methods treated in the section. 13.15, you go through your Wang and Salmon for the design method, because I did not discuss this because I assume you know how to design sections uniaxial bending case. Okay, so these are for uniaxial bending case. So check by using any one of the three approaches: Bressler, reciprocal, Bressler load, and Parme. You don't even have to check for these two, because these two are the basis of this design procedure. Then you have to check it only for Bressler. But if you want to double check it for assurance, you can check the 3 methods. Then several additional comments in regard to design of compression members in biaxial bending may be made as follows. So these are just comments. So whenever possible, the column subjected to biaxial bending should be circular in cross section. So wherever possible is a very seldom situation, no? Kasi ang hirap sa bilog na column eh. Madalang lalo na pag ang mga buildings mo are not for aesthetic ano yan, yung purpose ng building is not for aesthetic consideration. Okay, so if rectangular or square, the reinforcement shall be uniformly spread around the perimeter. So this is a good suggestion. It's a suggestion that makes your tignan nyo uniformly spread. It will make your contour or even your failure surface more even. Okay. Sometimes when you have a distribution which is not uniform, your contour might look like this. I found some research my contours like this. So this gives you a danger of having to fall inside this, no? So this might be a source of error in your computation. Okay, so making sure that the spread around the perimeter will give you a very even concavity of your surface. So circular or square columns can reasonably be designed to satisfy this one. Okay, 1.75. Actually, if you have a circular column, the maximum value of alpha is 2. So rectangular columns can be approximated designed to satisfy given P by using this equation. Okay, so this is a Bressler exponent then. Again, so these are the failure surface. So I'm referring to you a while ago. So this is the PNEXEY surface. Okay, Bressler. Did not use this in the computation. In-explore lang niya yung possibilities and he come up with a reciprocal surface. Ito yung ginamit niya. Ito yung ginamit niya kasi nakita niya mas maliit yung error pag nilagyan mo na ng points A, B, C dito. Okay? Yung surface niya dito gano'n. So dito, okay, lumiit yung error mo dun sa surface tsaka yung actual curve there. So this is the one that Bressler used. And this is the original surface. Ito yung totoong column interaction surface. This is the original surface and the contour can actually be drawn here. So whatever point you wish to place, this is the basis for your column interaction surface diagram and the load contour method. No? So this is the load contour method. And also the basis for your failure surface. the original failure surface that we are talking to, Pn, Mn, Mnx, Mny. Okay, so this is the thing that I'm telling you about. This is the contour. This is the ratio, okay, of your point B. This is point B, not beta. So this is very, very important when you deal with the actual. If you want to get the actual contour of your load level here at the interaction surface. So beta will give you your alpha value. And this can be done, ang kagandahan dito, by the exact analysis. Ito yung mga baliktad lang yung pagkakaprint sa acetate pa kasi siya nun. Okay, when alpha is 1, this is straight line. When alpha is 2, is a circle. And alpha is between this, it's a little bit flat. And this is a little bit concave. Okay, until it approaches a bilinear plot there. Okay, so this is the basis for your design approach by the PCA. Okay, ito yung sinasabi kong pagkuha ng slope 1 over beta divided by beta. So that's the slope. This is the y value, which is equal to your value here, whatever is your value here. Okay, so if it falls here, this is the MNY over MOY value. Okay, this one here is simply your intercept depth because it intersects that point. Okay, so this is the equation, this is the equation. The only difference, look class, is nagbaliktad lang yung position itong dalawa. Okay? Okay, so I think that's it. I will finish our lecture on biaxial bending and compression for columns. So, any questions?